Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's coverage live from the Precious Metals Summit at Beaver Creek 2024. I'm excited to be joined by Lauren Megaw, Vice President of Corporate Development at Reyna Silver. Lauren, how are you finding the conference?
Oh, it's been great being here, seeing everyone, and honestly, one of my favorite things to do is present about Reyna, and particularly presenting about our projects. And that's especially heightened this year because we're drilling at Gryphon, and the drill rig's turning, and that's the best part of the year.
Absolutely, lots to talk about. We're going to talk about drilling in just a moment, but maybe for people who aren't familiar with Reyna, a quick overview. Can you give us, what are the key facts? What should people know?
Yeah, so I would say the big takeaway for what Reyna is a company that is focused on high-grade district-scale projects. I mean, those are the kind of things that actually move the needle, right? Yeah. We're looking for the kind of thing that creates impact. And, we are fortunate enough to have 4 projects that fit through that filter. And we have an exploration team that has been serially successful in taking that style of project, making discovery, and actually making it into reality. And, because of that, we've had access to capital even when our peers haven't, and that's allowed us to move forward these projects. And right now, we're drilling at our Gryphon project.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's talk about the drilling. Exciting developments going on. Walk us through the program. What are you hoping to find? What are the timelines? How many meters do you have planned?
So we're planning on 3,000 meters, weather permitting.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that we've been working on this summer with Gryphon is, we finally got boots on the ground. We announced that we had Gryphon last year here at Beaver Creek. And this summer was our first time actually being on the ground. And as we were out there, we were like, wow, this thing is bigger than we thought. And one of the first things that we did when realizing that is we went and consolidated the rest of the district. We had a pair of inliers in there, and we said, nope, we're getting those. And there was also some mineralization that was outside of our claim package, because historically all the focus here has been on just the gold mineralization. And we said, nope, we want the full system. So now we have an over 12,000 hectare project, right along the Carlin trend, with this big carbonate replacement deposit or CRD component to it. And what's going to be exciting for drilling this year is that Reyna is going to be the first company to actually target with a drill the carbonate replacement deposit style mineralization. That hasn't happened yet there. And, we're really looking forward to utilizing that CRD mineralization to better understand the system as a whole and help us unlock not just that, the silver, lead, zinc portion, but also unlock the Carlin portion of this as well. And that's the beautiful thing about Gryphon is it has trifecta potential. Fantastic.
I guess, what are the timelines here? What can people expect in terms of getting some results out and seeing some of those intercepts?
Yeah, so the drill rig's currently turning.
Okay.
Typically what we try to do is plan our drill program, drill our drill program, and then report our drill program as a whole in context of itself.
Okay.
Now, granted, because of the 3 different zones that we're doing, and their target style of mineralization is a little bit different from each other, we might end up deciding, okay, we're going to put one out before the others. But right now the plan is for the whole thing going out together, and that would be late fall, probably. Okay. Should the assay labs cooperate with timeliness, which is always tricky, and it can be especially tricky if you're in a system that has the potential for serious high grade, because it means that you can hit your over limits, and then you have to send it back for additional reassay. So sometimes those delays in getting results can actually be the result of Hollywood problems.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess that only builds the anticipation further. I want to talk a bit about the region. So you consolidated this massive land package. Who else is operating in the area?
Oh gosh, we're surrounded by the big companies. You have Nevada Gold Mines to our north, as well as Orla. One of the crazy things at Gryphon, and I guess this kind of explains why historically the focus has been so much on just the gold mineralization, is that you can stand on an outcrop that runs 5 grams gold in samples. And you look across the valley and you can see Cortez, which is a 50 million ounce gold camp. You go, oh, that's right. We're in the land of monsters. I mean, we're surrounded by the big companies. We're surrounded by some of the world's largest gold deposits. And, one of the things that we're having a lot of fun with is recognizing that this area that is now known for the Carlin type golds used to be understood as being the home of some really high grade silver, lead, zinc CRDs with a big gold kicker. And what we're recognizing is that there's a relationship between those two styles of mineralization, and that's why we think we can use one to help us find the other.
Okay, fantastic. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the CRDs. Yeah. Give us a quick overview. What's the significance there as it relates to the Gryphon project?
So carbonate replacement deposits are awesome because they can be big, continuous, high grade, polymetallic. So you get your silver, lead, zinc, copper, gold in the same pile of and it's compact mineralization, so very high grade, but can be large at the same time. It's really cool stuff with high recovery rates. Mm-hmm. And what that essentially boils down to is you're talking about really high margin deposits. And I guess a way to think about them is we could talk about them in terms of geologic terms, or we could use an analogy. You can think of a CRD as being like a public transportation system. Okay. So you have, let's imagine a bus terminal. Yeah. In this case, and that's your source for your mineralization. In this case, it's a porphyry. So what you normally associate with copper and gold. And coming off of that porphyry is acidic mineralized fluid. But in our bus terminal analogy, that's your bus, fully loaded with metals going out along its bus route. And the bus route is actually the structures in the rock. And when that bus comes in contact with carbonate, the magic host rock, hence carbonate replacement deposits, metals hop out. And actually, metals hop out in different neighborhoods, kind of depending on where you are. So if you're close to that bus terminal, you're in the downtown area, geologists call that the skarn. Mm-hmm. So there you'll have higher copper, gold, lead, zinc. Your silver grade's gonna be a little bit lower, but that's where everything's voluminous. Yeah. As you make your way further out into the system, you get into the suburbs, and geologists call that the chimney manto, or the massive sulfide portion. Your silver grade goes way up along with your lead and your zinc and critical metals. And that's where the metals care a little bit more about their view and whether or not they're in the right host rock for it. And at the very end, the elements that fell asleep in the back of the bus, they get kicked out. And that's our alteration halo. And so that consolidation we just did was to make sure that we didn't miss anyone, that we've got ourselves we've got all the suburbs and some of the rural areas sort of locked in. And the cool thing for us at Gryphon is if you think of CRDs as being like buses, you can think of Carlin type deposits as being like taxi cabs, which I realize with Uber and all of that, maybe that's not the best analogy, but they're yellow, so I like the association. But so you're still gonna, the taxi cabs are still gonna follow those same routes that were laid out by the buses, and then they go everywhere from there. Mm-hmm. And so our theory is that if we can unlock the infrastructure of our deposit city, then that will allow us to better understand where's the mineralization going. Oh, where's our big traffic jams, right? You're looking for your interchanges, you're looking for your intersections, because that's where you're gonna have your biggest mineralization. And then can we use that to better understand the gold as well? And then there's this really cool aspect, which is if you think about that bus terminal, some places the bus terminal is going to be a bus terminal, but in Nevada, your porphyries could be productive for copper and gold and all this fun stuff. And we have this one area that we're going to be testing where we have samples that are coming back with super high grade copper and silver and gold. And you go, okay, let's think about this as a full system. Don't get just stuck in one neighborhood. Don't get distracted by just one little piece of it. Let's start figuring out, a big system, because as far as we can tell, we're not looking at, I don't want to make fun of Omaha, Nebraska, but we're not looking at Omaha, Nebraska. We're looking at a New York City, right? You're looking for a long-lived system that is overprinted, and it's one of the things that gets us excited about Gryphon. And the 3 targets that we have coming up kind of tap into each one of those pieces.
Okay, fantastic. I love the analogy and really helps to concisely convey the geology there. I guess, to stick with that analogy, when you're pursuing these targets, what are you using for your bus route map? What kind of geological indicators are you looking for that you're honing in on these exciting areas?
So it's a couple of things. I mean, in one case, it's a structure that runs for almost 1.5 kilometers that outcrops on surface, that has beautiful display of CRD mineralization. You go, yeah, I want to test that. In fact, historically, there was some mining on this, and they mined it to the base of oxidation and then stopped, because that's what they were processing at the time. But that led the deeper sulfides untouched. So that's where our drill rig is turning right now, is to test those deeper sulfides and see if we can kind of get a handle on where that's at. The other cool thing about taking the approach of looking at Gryphon from the CRD angle versus the Carlin angle is because CRD fluids are more aggressive than Carlin fluids in terms of their higher acidity, their higher temperature. It also means that they show up differently in geophysics. Okay. So there's a bunch of geophysics that was done at Gryphon that we're looking forward to testing these targets that we think, like, the targets are being determined by other features, but there's that added sweetener of there's a geophysics anomaly that's associated with it. And if it turns out that that's related to something more scalable, we'll look at what we do with that next year. I mean, we're spoiled at Gryphon with opportunity. And we also have these big, deep-seated structures that we can see that have obviously carried mineralization, both CRD mineralization and gold mineralization. And that's one of the things that we're going to be checking out in that Sadler area where we have the high copper and silver numbers. Yeah. I mean, you have this zone where you get all these veins and breccias of veins that are weeping copper oxides. And you look at that and you go, how has no one drilled near here? And, that's another example of a place that we're going to go take seriously.
Fantastic. Well, sounds like there's a lot of really promising targets that are being explored at the moment, and the drill's turning as we speak. I guess looking ahead, beyond just maybe this drill program, you recently consolidated with Reyna Gold. You've maybe pooling some knowledge resources here. How does that set you up in combination with this drill program for 2025 and even further down the line?
Yeah. I mean, we looked at this year and we looked at what we had going on with Gryphon, and we said, let's consolidate the land package. Let's consolidate the two Reynas. There was a whole bunch of crossover, and let's not let any capital go somewhere that is not towards the drill bit when we don't have to. And, putting those pieces together. And, I think the big thing with Gryphon is if we're right about one of the components here, we're right about the silver or the gold or the copper, forward-looking statement, but that's a big deal. And if we're right about all three of them together, that's why we're working on making sure that we have a plan for, what if we are successful, not just what if, that is something that you have to plan for as well, especially given the territory that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I mean, just to wrap up here, when investors are looking at some of the projects out there, there are other projects in Nevada, there are other projects with significant land packages. Why should investors be paying attention to Reyna?
Well, Gryphon certainly looks like a monster. We have 3 other monsters that we're dealing with as well. And, the thing that I would say about Gryphon is it's got something for everyone. And if we're right about what it could be, then it's the kind of thing that really moves the needle and more than happily defines that high-grade district scale that we look for. So that would be my big takeaway.
Fantastic. Well, Lauren, excited to have drills turning at the property and more news coming soon, no doubt. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. And hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you very much.